Clair Obscur Expedition 33. What can I say about this game that hasn't already been said? I will admit that I'm never one to buy into the hype when it comes to something unproven and untested. So when I heard about this game and how everyone was drooling over it, I rolled my eyes and thought, I'm sure it's good, but is it as amazing as everyone says? About a week after it dropped, a good friend of mine told me I would love the gameplay and the world. He knows me pretty well, so I decided to check it out, and it was more than worth it. You've all heard how amazing this game is, but who is it for? That's the question. I tend not to think a gameplay trailer does a game justice. Yes, it will give you a good idea of how the game plays, but not how it feels to play it. When I saw Expedition 33 gameplay, I saw a more realistic Persona 4. I do enjoy Persona, but I never fell in love with any of them. I figured this was more of that kind of gameplay. Boy, was I wrong. The defining feature of this game is its combat. This is not a game which you seek to grind out levels to overpower your characters. You actively seek combat because it's fun and keeps you involved. Between tweaking your characters and picking a strategy for each one, you'll be gearing them up with passives which can completely change how they play. Combat is as much active as it is turn-based. You won't get to put the controller down when it's the enemy's turn, as you'll still have to dodge and parry the enemy attacks unless you have a build in which you want to be hit by the enemy. On your turn, it's not just about selecting the ability you want to use, but actively buffing it with button prompts to get more hits and critical hits at that. If you enjoy any kind of turn-based combat, it's safe to say you will enjoy this take on turn-based combat. If you like active combat, approach with caution. This may not be your bread and butter, but you may find it more enjoyable than expected. Beyond combat, this is a beautifully crafted world in more ways than one. Every area you visit has an artistic vision to it. It may be brushstrokes from the same artist, but each area has its own distinct feel and visual spectacle. While you trek through each area, you'll be panning over beautiful landscapes while you scour every corner for items and battle every enemy, if not just for the joy of combat, for the chance at new materials to upgrade weapons or characters with. You'll occasionally come across a puzzle to solve, and I use the term puzzle loosely. There is not much to these sections, but it will break up, jumping from combat to combat. Speaking of breaking up combat, let's take some time to talk about the game's weakness before I get to the best part of Expedition 33. At some point in development, I feel like the devs said to themselves, all we have is an amazing combat system, beautiful environments, and an amazing story. We need more. Let's tack on some platforming sections even though we didn't design the game to be a platformer. I truly hope these developers get a bigger team and a bigger budget to make more amazing games. But if you're going to do something in your game, you need to design it so it feels like you actually tried to make it part of your game. Whoever animated the jump of characters definitely was not told there would be platforming sections to this game. Moreover, hire someone that has done platforming games before because this is the biggest weakness of the game. Now, this does not draw any points from the overall product, as everything to do with platforming is a side activity for the most part, but if you're a 100% completionist, you'll likely be frustrated by these sections. If I had any input for the devs here, it would be to hire someone for platforming and puzzle sections. Get a God of War dev for puzzles and an Insomniac dev for platforming, and this game would be a pure masterpiece. Speaking of masterpiece, the story. As someone who lives and breathes stories, from anything to do with games to movies to anime to books, I can never get enough of a good story. I was not expecting much here. All I knew about this game was the tagline. You're on Expedition 33 to fight the paintress who is painting a number each year which kills anyone of that age and older. I figured there would be some twist to it, but I was not expecting what we got. I refuse to spoil the story. In fact, I wouldn't spoil it regardless, but I refuse to even hint at anything here due to how amazing they crafted this story. I was actually surprised that I haven't seen tons of spoilers online, and would like to believe that's because anyone who experiences this story understands how wrong it would be to take any story away from those planning on playing it. Paired with the story is an amazing score. I'm not big into game music unless it's Final Fantasy or Zelda, and this hits all the right notes here. Everything about this world was so well crafted. I have to end on the fact that the opening of the story hit me nearly as hard as The Last of Us. While The Last of Us nearly drew tears from my dry eyes, Expedition 33 managed to be a strong contender here. While it may not have achieved the same level of The Last of Us, it still hits hard due to not knowing exactly what is happening at the beginning of the game. This is just another well-crafted part of the story. Slowly drip-feeding the player the lore behind the world works on another level to help every twist and turn land that much harder. So who's it for? I'll break it down into two parts. The lesser of two evils would be the story. If you are a player that needs a good story to drive them forward through a game, then you need to check this game out. If you don't like the combat, the story is more than enough to keep you moving forward. Also, if you are someone who is not that skilled at combat, you can easily turn down the difficulty and overpower your characters pretty early on. I ended up figuring out a build for two of the main characters in Act 2 that made my characters walking gods that couldn't be touched. Now, that could be a bad thing for some people, but I found it fun until I realized the harder difficulties didn't increase the health pool of the enemies to provide more of a challenge when I felt the need for one. The greater of two evils, the combat. If you're an old school gamer who likes games like Persona or Final Fantasy, specifically 10 and Tactics, you'll love this game. I do have to warn you though, if you like that kind of gameplay and challenge, you will have to hold yourself back, because if you dig into the combat system and figure out the builds I did, you will overpower your characters to a point that bosses don't even get a chance to attack, and low-level enemies die at the very start of battle. In New Game Plus, my battles have legitimately lasted 1 second so far. I am still in Act 1 as of writing this, so I am hoping that in New Game Plus the health pools do get larger later on, but as it stands right now, I am doing New Game Plus solely for the second ending. With all that said, get out there and enjoy something amazing that's worth the price of admission. Before I got the game, I was hearing people say it was going to be Game of the Year. I thought it was way too early to decide that. After having finished the game, I can confidently say it is a very strong contender for Game of the Year and will likely win.